Hey, Matt Mosley here, the Obstructed View podcast. And we are fortunate enough today to have Joey McGuire, known him for a long time, came to Baylor, was a huge part of Matt Rule's staff. And then when he wanted the Baylor job in 2019 after Matt Rule left, and he did not get the job, but because of recruiting and the impact he had with a lot of players, a lot of the players wanted Joey as the coach. Dave Aranda became the coach, and Baylor was able to keep Joey as the assistant head coach. And of course, he continued to work with the defense. And then the rest is history. 2021 season, Baylor's having a great season, and Texas Tech comes after him, and certainly having a really good season as the Bears end up in Lubbock. And we'll talk more about that here in the coming days. But I wanted to share this with my Obstructed View podcast, and I taped this with my radio show, ESPN Central Texas. But I thought, man, we need to share this as well with our Obstructed View podcast audience, and we'll delve into some of those things that go back to when Joey was in the running for the Baylor job, how he thought that went. We revisited some of that, his relationship with Baylor, what he thinks of them, and then we'll talk about his thoughts on Baylor quarterback Sawyer Robertson, as well as two of the best players in the conference. Well, one for sure, Taj Brooks, the running back from Texas Tech, and then their quarterback, Baron Morton, who's having a nice season, and right now is 14 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. That had been a problem with him, and he has really worked on that part of his game. Baylor will need some takeaways, and they need that interception total to trickle up a little bit to have a shot at the upset in Lubbock, where Texas Tech will be having its homecoming. We'll also talk about that. So without further ado, I want to you to be able to hear my interview with Texas Tech head football coach Joey McGuire. It is great to have Coach Joey McGuire with us. You know him. You watch what he did at Baylor, and now he's getting it done at Texas Tech. Coach, welcome back, and congratulations on your success so far this season.
Thank you, man, and thank you so much for having me, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it kind of hurts my feelings a little bit that y'all are having my alma mater for homecoming. Okay, I'm trying not to read too much into that, but to kick us while we're down a little bit, Joey, I don't know about that. I suppose you would tell me these things are done long time in advance, and you had nothing to do with that, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's a little bit different than high school. I could set my schedule, and when we did senior night and all that stuff, I don't have anything to do with the schedule. We just try to make sure the team's ready to go, and we show up and kick the ball off.
Well, y'all have been in a good way, and it's been a fun team to watch. I want to start with your quarterback, though. Baron Morton, boy, he's provided consistency. I think the way y'all handled him in the spring, that may be paying off right now. I thought that was interesting when y'all decided to maybe give him fewer reps and really give him time to recover and all those kinds of things. And here he is. I would say the touchdown to interception ratio was the one thing that might have been holding him back and holding your team back a little bit in the past. 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. What are you seeing from Baron? And I guess another huge positive is it does seem like he's kind of at his best when the game's on the line. Y'all been in some tight ones.
Yeah, we've been every game has been, at least going into the fourth quarter, a really tight game, and we've been fortunate to come out on the right side of 5 of those. But the biggest thing, I think it's a growth of Baron. Him knowing that he's QB1 coming into the season. I think he approached the season totally different. And then, he and Zach Kitley have as good of a relationship and chemistry as a play caller and quarterback that I've been around in 30 years, and I've been around some really, really good quarterbacks. And, it's just impressive to watch them communicate. And it's not just on game day, it's throughout the week. It's really impressive of you go in there and you sit in a quarterback meeting and the way they bounce ideas off each other and the way, they just they get into a really good rhythm. And I think that's helped. And then just his leadership's been incredible this year. It's really helped us, finish some really close games, that in the fourth quarter we've been at our best.
Now, on any given Saturday, you could run into one of your old quarterbacks, right? That's what the college football we live in now. You got one at Houston. I think you all have one out at Oklahoma State. It's kind of interesting how that happens. You're going to run into one of your former players this weekend. Steve Linton transferred to Baylor, and it became kind of a comical thing, Joey, that he got most of his stats last season, or his sacks at least, in that Baylor game. And y'all had a dominating win in Waco. But now Steve's a pretty, what we found out is he's a pretty good all-around pass rusher. And so I was wondering if he was like a one-hit wonder type guy. What did you learn about him being around Steve, and how strange is that? I guess it's where we are now with college football, that you see your former players. But what do you make of the season Steve's having, and how interesting is that as a coach when you got to go up against those former players?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing you got to get used to. I mean, we played Abilene Christian. 6 of their offensive starters played for us. We played North Texas, and their right side of their offensive line, their right guard and right tackle played for us. And, it's just kind of the nature of college football right now. Steve is a explosive football player. He's one of the most athletic guys I've been around. He's a really good person, and man, he is like, I watched that Colorado game and he just jumps off the tape, and he's a guy. Tough thing is Baylor has 2 really good guys with him and Garmin Randolph, which I know really well because I was his position coach. Man, both of those guys are just so electric at rushing the passer. And so one of the big things that we've talked about, you talk about it every week, but it's really important in games like this that we've got to stay ahead of the sticks to where it's not, it's a third down and 100% passing situation, because when they can pin their ears back and really come after the passer, they're really special.
All right, Joey McGuire on the Matt Mosley Show, ESPN Central Texas. What about a guy from Lubbock, Sawyer Robertson, who honestly, was not Baylor's starting quarterback? They go in the transfer portal, spend quite a bit of money on a player out of the MAC, and for whatever reason, that has not worked out, injury or otherwise. And Sawyer's really taken the job. I would say on the list of things why Baylor's 2-4, certainly Sawyer has kept them in games and has played really well. So he would not be one of the people to blame. What are you seeing from Sawyer, a kid from out in your part of the country in West Texas?
Yeah, Sawyer's special. I mean, I remember him coming out of high school, and then remember him, we were at the time whenever he got in the portal. I mean, we had Tyler Shuck that's at Louisville, and like you said, Donovan that's at Houston and Barron. So we weren't in a need for a quarterback to bring him back home. But man, he's special, and you're 100% right. I mean, he's one of the main reasons they're in the position at the end of the games to beat Colorado or beat BYU. I mean, he left it all on the field against BYU, and he's playing at a really, really good level. I mean, he's a guy that can beat you with his arm and beat you with his feet. He continues drives with his feet. Had a big rushing touchdown against Colorado, and so he's definitely a guy, that as we're looking at Baylor and what we've got to do, he's a guy that we've got to make sure we also contain him in the pocket and not let him get loose, because he can really run the football too. His leadership shows. I've listened to press conferences, where he's got to speak, and you could tell he has the heart of that locker room, and he is when you just talk about Baylor as a whole, man, they're a scary football team, because they could easily be 4-2, if not 5-1. It just from the standpoint of the ball bouncing. The ball is weird. It's a weird shaped ball. It bounces weird ways, and you go in that Colorado game and you're thinking that they're going to win, and they miss a field goal to stretch the lead to 10 points, and then you turn around in BYU, they've got the ball, throwing it in the end zone to win the game at the end of the game after getting down early in the game. And so they fight. They're fighting their tails off. You could tell that that those guys. It's not a team that has given up, man, but just by the way they play, and we're expecting all we can get, here in Lubbock on Saturday.
All right, and that'll be a great crowd. I heard you talking on an interview recently just about, and you're sitting in your new digs in that south end zone complex, the double T apparently looming high above the field, and y'all will be in your, I think those old red jerseys that
yes,
your group likes so much, and I'm sure those saddle tramps and all the stuff will be going on out there. What has that been like to have that, all that stuff built? And I even heard you talking about the noise. That interests me a little bit, especially now. Again, I'm glad this is a day game. Nights in Lubbock are a little scary on all fronts. So we needed this to be with some daylight to start this game. But what has that environment been like? And now explain that to me. Where is this extra noise coming from? Is that just kind of the way y'all built it back there in the south end zone?
Yeah, well, you've got a new sound system, a new video board in the north end zone, then you've got two new video boards in the south end zone, and then the south end zone it's taller than the north end zone, and so you've closed in the noise in the stadium, and so it just makes it really an even tougher environment to play in. The tortillas will be flying on kickoffs. And so I think the biggest thing is now you're having that noise bounce off the south end zone and back onto the field. And it does, man. It makes it that much louder. And we've played well at home. They've all been dogfights, but we found, we're 4-0 at home, and we got to carry that over, this Saturday.
So a little more removed from the raw energy of those early Baylor games. I'm sure it's still special to you because it had a big impact on your career. But I hope you're not in the Dan Campbell type mood, right? Dan Campbell loves the Jones family and loves the Cowboys. But you saw what he did the other night or the other afternoon. He had no chill, and he decided he was lining up, throwing the tackles and doing the tackle eligible. There was something else on his mind in that game, and boy, he stuck it to the Cowboys. Where are your feelings these days toward Baylor and of course Dave Aranda, who you remained and served on his staff? As you get removed, does it not feel as kind of raw and as emotional as it may have been right at the start?
No, you're 100% right. I literally just got to telling Andrew Tyree, who's over our major gifts and everything. We were meeting, and I said it just feels different. I think them beating us here probably added more last year, and then us winning last year. I just think you're more removed. There's less and less players that on the staff. There's less and less staff members on the staff. But, I said it in my press conference on Monday, I have such a great respect for Dave Aranda. Him letting me stay at Baylor, I'll never forget that. What he did with Garrett, I'll never forget that. I'll be appreciative. And then, you can tell a major difference in the way they're playing right now, especially on defense. And, he's one of the best defense coordinators / head coaches in the country. And you could tell by the way they're playing defense that he's calling it, and he's brilliant. He was brilliant at LSU. He was brilliant at Wisconsin. And so, I just have so much respect for him. But you're right. The farther you get away from that, it starts becoming more just, hey, man, this is a Big 12 game. And especially, I look at it, the importance of beating Baylor, no doubt, is really important, but it's more important just no matter who it is to find a way to go 4-0 in the Big 12. I'm thinking of that more than actually who we're playing, and I think that's really important.
Did you get, Joey, full consideration after that 2019 season? A lot of Baylor fans wanted you to be the guy. The players obviously were asking for that. Looking back, did you get full consideration? Is that something you just don't really think about that much? I just know how coaches are wired, and some things stick in y'all's craw. And I'm just wondering how you feel about that specific instance following that 2019 season when Baylor was doing a coach search.
Yeah, 100%. I felt really good about it. I 100% got the exact same thing as far as consideration as everybody else. I have a lot of respect for Mac, the way he, handled all that. And then also the way I was able to stay, that made a big difference. That was Garrett's senior year. Garrett wanted to be a part of that, that were his guys, and, the Terrell Bernards and the Jalen Petries and the Charlie Brewers and, that whole group, Ebner and just all those guys that he loved and, still talk to all the time. But I 100%, I never felt any way that wasn't, they did it the right way. It was extremely professional. I felt good about the interview, and I always tell everybody, I came in second, and at the end of the day, I really do think God has a plan, and I was able to learn a lot. I think it was really important that I stayed where I was at because I think I learned more instead of leaving, and then it put me in a place where I'm supposed to be. I absolutely love Texas Tech. I mean, I've made it known, and I really mean this. I know a lot of coaches just say it, but, this is a place that I want to – I always say I don't know if I'll ever retire, but if I do, it's going to be in the red and black, and I just want to make sure I'm putting this university in a good place to make sure I'm here for the rest of my career. But it is, man. I do. I root for Baylor every week but one. I root for the guys on that staff. I root for those players. And, I do. I have a great appreciation for Waco and Baylor and what they did for our family. It really is a special place. But, I know where I'm supposed to be, and it's right here in Lubbock, Texas. And so going back to your original question, I 100% got the consideration and felt, really good about everything at the time and then now, and still, we're in meetings together and have a great relationship with Mac and of course, coaches usually always have good relationships.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing each other, and it's still good relationships, but, you want to beat each other, so you're going at each other. But, I love seeing Coach Aranda and asking about his family and everything whenever I see him on the road or any meetings, for the Big 12.
It's fascinating, all the Baylor Tech stuff going on back to Coach Taff. And there's a Baylor guy running who was my fraternity brother, your basketball coach now. And it's kind of – is Grant, by the way, he just got a contract extension. Is he acting different? Have you run into him? Does he have like a new vehicle he's driving? What's his attitude been like since he got that massive extension?
No, he's great, man. He just had a birthday this week, and he had fantasy camp this weekend, which I know a lot of the guys, they do our fantasy camp, and man, he's the best. I can't ask for a better person to work with when it comes to and we have a lot of that. Coach Kitley's the same way with the track team, but Grant's so good, and man, he always knows the right thing to say wherever we're at in our season to encourage me or anything that he sees that can help. We have a really, really good relationship.
All right, Joey McGuire on the Matt Mosley Show, ESPN Central Texas. Taj Brooks, I mean, your only loss this season, I think, was the one he was not involved with, was not on the field. Unbelievable player and I think you've called him. You believe he's the best back in the country. Where has he elevated his game this season? Whether it's maybe more leadership, more vocal, whatever. It just seems like he's such an enormous part of it, and he already was. He had 170 rushing yards against the Bears last season. But where have you seen him take that next step as he probably gets ready to be in the NFL next season?
Yeah, two big ones. You said one of them, his leadership. He's one of our captains. We've got 5 captains. I've never been around a stronger group of leaders as players. And then he's faster. He one of the reasons that he came back, one, was to break the record, and two, he knew if he could increase his speed, and I think he'll even take another step whenever he starts training for the combine, that, he could increase his productivity, and you could see that, whenever he is a faster back. I mean, he's still 230 pounds, but he is a faster running back. And it is, the one game that we've lost, and they beat us, not to take anything away from Washington State. They're a really good football team. It's a tough place to play there at Washington State, but we didn't have Taj, and that made a big difference. And we're going to have him on Saturday. I think that's going to make a big difference. I'm glad we do. But and then the other thing I always tell everybody, I tell all the NFL scouts, you're not going to find a better human being to walk into your building every day. I mean, he's just a great person. He cares so much about the people around him, and it's more about the people around him than it is about him. And so, I'm just glad he's on our football team.
Yeah, and it's just, and you'll have 3 of your 4 games after this one on the road. Boy, that's going to be your schedule makers didn't do you any favors there, but still, so much ahead of you, but as you kind of look at how the schedule plays out, what do you think? You got, obviously you're going to be focused on the Bears, but it's got to be exciting, the sense that undefeated in conference. Now there's 12 teams. It opens up all sorts of possibilities. Utah's struggling. Everybody had basically handed them the Big 12, it seemed like, at the start of the season. Where is your mindset? To me, this is a wide open type deal, and really you are in the driver's seat in a lot of ways.
Well, I'll tell you, I've become friends. Really didn't know him very well other than meeting with Kenny Dillingham, the head coach at Arizona State. And they've got a great football team and a great running back. And I listen to his press conferences a lot. He's got a lot of energy, and man, he says it like every single week. You either open up ESPN app or you see it on the ticker, or you're watching the game and you're going, man, I can't believe this score. I can't believe, like, the great thing about the Big 12, but I think you're starting to see it even more around college football. The new college football is anybody can beat anybody any week, any given week. And so, we just try to focus on what we can control, and that's the game in front of us. And that's the thing. You're fixed to play Baylor, then we turn and we go to Fort Worth, and TCU's got a high-flying offense, and then we've got to go to Iowa State. So it's a really tough place to play, and they're undefeated, and then we get to come back home. But it is, man, it's every single week you look up and you open up the ESPN app or whatever, you look at your scores and you're like, man, I can't believe that just happened. Vandy goes and beats Alabama and then turns around and beats Kentucky. So it's kind of one of those deals like, who's really good in football, or who's, I know there's a couple teams out there that are playing at a different level probably than everybody else. Texas is one of them. But, man, you never know. And they've got a tough game this week. And so we're just trying to put ourselves in a good position to be in the mix and see what happens.
All right. Dillingham, that was quite a post-game interview where he basically ended it with just hanging out with the college kids. And you're someone who brings a great deal of energy and loves those kinds of situations. So it doesn't shock me that maybe you and Dillingham could possibly hit it off.
Yeah, no doubt. I always tell everybody, though, he's 34, I'm 53. I still think I got more energy than he does. But, that was so much fun to watch. I actually got to watch it with Garrett. We've got a couple commits that are in the Nebraska area, and so I got to see Garrett and hang out with him and watch a really, really good football game. And I'm telling you, Arizona State, it's just the Big 12. I mean, it's just tough every single week.
All right, what's your coffee situation like there in the new complex? Do you have like you got an espresso machine or Nespresso
No.
or whatever it's called? What's that scene
We're
like?
old school, man. We got the pots, and we got a bunch of them. That thing's rolling 24/7. I don't know who drinks more coffee, me or Zach Kidley, but it's always rolling. And you just don't get in trouble and take the last drop and not start another pot. It doesn't matter what time it is of the day. You better make sure that you're starting another pot.
All right. And what is a closing room, by the way? I heard you were talking about your office, but you said there was a closing room. Is that where y'all get these commits? You kind of get them over the goal line. What is that? What is a closing room?
Yes, sir. That was the idea. So I have whenever you walk into my office, you turn to the left. It's kind of the working office, and it looks like a normal office, video, TVs, and then you go to the right, and man, it's I got a PlayStation in there, huge TV, really nice couch, chairs, and then there's a table, of course, that you could sit down with a family and try to make sure they're going to be Red Raiders whenever it's all said and done. I mean, I'll tell you, whenever people see it, I walked a group through on Monday of some of our friends that are really big donors for us, and it was the first time they'd got to see the south end zone. They were just blown away. I mean, it's definitely a difference maker, and man, it's got all the bells and whistles. I mean, anything you can think of that is going to make a recruit, but also a player on your team a better version of themselves, then we've got it in this building.
Joey, thank you. Always appreciate it. Boy, you and Kalani Sitake and our man, Coach Calhoun out at Air Force, they just these opposing coaches this year, y'all are incredibly gracious. And, of course, with you, it's just been fun knowing you for so many years. So best of luck on Saturday afternoon, and, boy, look forward to seeing you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on. It's great to talk to you.
All right, there he was. Joey McGuire, and Joey's always very gracious with his time, and quite honestly, I should add that this year, whether it be Troy Calhoun, the coach at Tarleton, Kalani Sitake, who has BYU really headed toward big things, and perhaps could be the Big 12's representative in the college football playoff. These schools have all made their coaches available to me. And, I appreciate that at a time when Baylor's own head coach really has sworn off all sort of one-on-one deals like this. I think the world of these other departments that have made their coaches available, and am so appreciative of that, and appreciative of Joey McGuire, who's a longtime friend, being with us. Still loves the Bears, but I think it's still, he knows he didn't get this job. He knows how this looks. Baylor has a coach on the hot seat, and Joey seems to be riding high right now. Can the Bears change that? We shall see. And just so I don't, there's no, anything getting confused. Baylor SID department, the Baylor PR, does a really nice job. And if it were up to them, Dave Aranda would be doing all kinds of media and be open to doing one-on-ones. It's not their decision. Dave has asked to not do those things, and they're trying to honor his wishes. So I don't really hold it against Baylor, but I did kind of want to at least share what I think about that whole situation. And this is the first head coach ever at Baylor that has sworn off one-on-ones with the flagship, as well as everybody else. It's not just us. You would understand if he just decided not to talk to me. But anyway, it's pretty much everybody. Joey had a lot of interesting things to say. The one reaction I'll have going back to 2019 season, Matt Rule's leaving. Joey wants the job. The players are lobbying for him. Would he have been the better choice over Aranda? Well, of course, Baylor goes on to have the unbelievable 2021 season from a play calling standpoint, from an X's and O's, from Dave Aranda riding high at the time. You can kind of understand why Aranda would have been the choice. Joey had not been a head coach and at the collegiate level, had been an unbelievable high school coach with 3 state titles there at Cedar Hill. But, I understand why the decision was made. Do I think Joey McGuire is a better college head football coach than Dave Aranda? Well, I think right now, if you look at the results and look at what's going out in Lubbock and you look at the excitement of their program and what they're doing, I think the answer is yes. And again, we'll see how this plays off, or it plays out. But if Dave Aranda is to have any chance to keep coaching and to be the coach next year and to get this nice 2025 recruiting class put to bed, the Bears have to turn it around, and that starts in Lubbock. And we'll have more on that on Friday's Obstructed View, when we'll give you a full-on preview of the Bears and the Red Raiders. For Mike Hamilton and our friends at Rogue Media Network, I am Matt Mosley. That has been yet another episode of Obstructed View.
We are Rogue Media Sports.